many people don't know this about me. I have got a Herero middle name. It's Turipamwe, and it means we are together, and yes, it's for real. I grew up in a pretty unconventional Afrikaans family. My father had an incredible gift for languages and spoke many indigenous languages. And so when his daughters were born, he felt it only appropriate that we should have Namibian names. I didn't grow up with him on a regular basis. And he gave this to me, one of the last times that I saw him, explaining the meaning of my names and my sister's names. When he passed away in 2007, I wanted to reconnect with him and perhaps a lost part of my own identity. And so I started using the name more regularly. And today it's also the name of my design studio. So design as a profession didn't come to me in a logical way. But as this drawing suggests, I think my intuitive, wiser, younger self somehow knew it from a young age. It somehow prophesizes double rainbows across the sky, and clearly I'd be great with my hands. And so since discovering my passion for creativity, I've really been able to dabble in different fields, working as a graphic designer, a production designer, and an arts practitioner. Though since dealing with the idea of titles, I kind of much prefer creative, thinker, maker, and doer. So, my first piece of graphic design, aged 6. It has really all the elements of graphic design: color, scale, typography. The smallest, though I believe most significant part of this piece is the Namibian flag. At the time, newly independent Namibian children were being taught how to sing the new national anthem and how to draw a new flag. And I remember my eternal frustration with this flag and not being able to draw straight diagonal lines across the longest part of the page without a ruler. So clearly that is a thing. And so by 4th grade, I was pretty much a rebel with a cause. I wanted out of a government school system where I felt unable to express my true creative and social self. I was always questioning authoritarian teachers and my peers about why things were or weren't a particular way. Like, why do we refer to pink-colored crayons as flesh-colored? Because clearly all flesh isn't pink. And girls could do woodwork if they wanted to and play on the same playground as boys. And it is to my mother that I'm internally indebted, because I believe she understood this. She understood that I needed to be in a different environment, and so sacrificed so much to put me through the best holistic private education that she could afford. And I really do believe that this created the ecosystem for my creative critical thinking, for which I hold so dear today. And so fast forward. By 2011, I was working for an advertising agency and pretty much feeling like I was filling my life with work and not filling my work with life. And so I said, screw this. I'm gonna jump in off the deep end, quit my job, and I spent 4 months in Berlin working as an artist. And while I was there, it really got me thinking about how we can create identity in our personal work and create a better community around us. And so with this intention and this idea, I came back to Namibia to make that creative change, both in my personal and creative work. And somehow, when you set an intention for something that's important to you, it's like the universe almost conspires to bring you all these amazing opportunities to help you make that change, because it's something that you hold dear. And so soon after that, I was contracted by the University of Namibia to offer desktop publishing. It would be a new course for visual arts students that had never been offered before. And this was tricky for me because, 1, there wasn't any content on the course. I had to develop it. And 2, I had never taught before. In fact, there were students in my class who are amazing Namibian artists who are older than me. So that was a bit awkward. What could I share with them as this sort of 20-something? But I felt a strong calling for it. As Maya Angelou says, when you learn, teach, and when you get, give. And that had struck a chord with me. The idea of sharing through doing, and how can I do that with my students? And so engaging with students from completely different social backgrounds and both artistic backgrounds as well, I discovered something. That challenging work on a creative and a conceptual level really posed a problem with students that weren't used to collectively sharing ideas and questioning what they were learning. And the thing with the creative process is that you don't know an answer up front. You have to move through the creative process in order to discover the answer or to discover the creative outcome. So really, there is clarity in action, but you have to do first and not know first. And I believe that this is counter to the model of our current education system, where teachers and lecturers are somehow the all-knowing ones, and students just give back what they'd been learning. And so that really doesn't give a model for creativity and innovation. And so if we can create an ecosystem that helps with the idea of collectively sharing ideas and questioning what we're learning, what might that not change? And so as much as we knew in our little class each week that we can only cover as much as material as we possibly could, I thought perhaps a more one-on-one peer learning experience would be a more effective way to work with students. And so over the past 3 years, I've invited students to my studio to take part in internships. And though the idea of mentoring someone or an internship is not necessarily a new idea, I do believe that it has shown how I can learn from them and they can take value from me. Students from this particular course have gone on to pursue degrees in architecture. They've taken up full-time design employment, and they've even won national design competitions. And though this is leased through the idea of the internship, I do believe that through us being able to work together, we could create something that added value to their lives and value in their communities. And so, working with students at the University of Namibia and my work with a local poetry organization, I was invited to the United States to attend a 3-week exchange program on how we can create social change through art. And while I was there, I came across this mural. It reads, "Art changes everything." And while I was there, it got me thinking about this idea that art can change everything. So now we can create this amazing skills that we have in industry, and we can have these amazing spaces that facilitate our creative processes. But what would it all matter if it doesn't make a real, tangible difference on a community level, where art has the ability to do that, addressing issues of socioeconomic development, intercultural dialogue, and social change? And so that brings me to this idea. Katatura is. It's an art project conceptualized and organized by 10 creative thinkers, makers, and doers that will invite artists to live and work in Katatura to create work with and for community, addressing specific social issues, using art, creativity, and design thinking to tackle those issues. And just for our global audience, Katatura is Windhoek's largest township, and in parts it has large informal unserviced settlements. It was created in the 1960s in the then apartheid government, when there was a forced removal of black and colored residents from the then old location. In fact, the word Katatura means the place where we do not belong. And so through Katatura might we reimagine, re-engage, and reinterpret the identity of what Katatura could be, and through that, what the identity of Windhoek and Namibia could be. The bigger idea here being that we would like this to be an ongoing project each year, where artists can engage with community and vice versa. And that we hope that Katatura is a step in that right direction. And so through making art with community, it brings me to what is the value of art in society. And as artists know, we can't do this alone. Art has the incredible ability to say how things are, but it also has the ability to say how things could be. I have a problem in our country that commercial billboards litter our urban and natural landscapes instead of public art. that busking and public performances is not permissible on the streets of Windhoek, and that in recent years there's been a serious mismanagement of millions worth of art funding. In fact, money is sent back, and we're told there's no money to complete your art projects. And so what does this say of the value of art? But what does this say of how we as artists value our craft? And what does this say of the way that society perceives us? This brings me to the point of national buildings and national monuments, which celebrate our incredible achievements as a young country, and rightfully so. This should be done. These are beautiful, if not perfect, examples for us to explore our national narratives through art and architecture. But when we don't advocate for the seriousness of our own artists, through us as artists and those around us, we let others speak. We let for others speak on behalf of us, telling our own narratives and our own stories, creating artifacts that are strange, inaccurate, and quite frankly, flippant of our own stories and identities. It seems like the artist has become a second-rate citizen, and that creativity is something when you do, when you're not really serious. But in the week leading up to this TEDxWindhoek talk, two incredible things have happened in the pursuit of creating identity and art in Namibia. We now have a Ministry of Education, Art and Culture, and as of 10 o'clock this morning, we have our first official national policy on art and culture. So, with this framework in place and the liberties, the incredible liberties that we already experience as citizens and creative workers, why aren't we doing more? We've spoken a lot today about comfort zones and taking risks. African creative director John Hunt writes, "We don't know what we don't know until we do what we usually don't do." Our playgrounds are to be celebrated. And it's here that we can really pursue these ideas and take them from ideas into action. And that comfort zones really are not environmentally friendly places to be. So again, this begs, what is the value of art in our society? And this brings me to another dream of mine. I'd like for Namibia to be able to measure the value of art through the perceptions of our society and the monetary value that we can put to an index. So to create a creative economy index for Namibia to help determine what value art and culture adds to our GDP to address issues like poverty as much as any other industry does. The tricky thing with this is, though, that art and creativity is often loose and impermanent, that artists don't necessarily subscribe to a specific rule of industry, and that craft continues to trade on an informal basis. And by its very nature, art and creativity cannot simply be boxed into a unit of measure. But there is a way. If through the artistic community and government and NGOs and the people we work with, we'd be able to map how many artists we have, what disciplines they're engaged with, where and how they work, what their struggles are, and what their indicators for success are. And through this, we'd be able to create effective policies or projects like that of Katatura is, or like that of our new national arts policy, that aims to add back into the economy what we're already creating. And I believe that this is already in line with our current development goals or Vision 2030. So as artists, we can also play our part in adding to that. And so I think again about growing up in a newly independent Namibia. At the end of the hallway in my childhood home hung a framed print of John Mafongeo's "A Man Looks After the Oxen in Summer." And I used to make up stories about the man in this print, who he was, where he was coming from and where on earth was he going with those oxen. John Mofengeo died at the age of 44, living and working in extremely difficult personal and social circumstances, but yet he's still considered to be Namibia's most prolific artist. I think about him and what he might have gone on to create if he was alive in a post-independent Namibia, but also what might he say of the state of affairs in our country regarding creativity and art. And so, in the spirit of playing beyond and TEDxWindhoek and ideas worth sharing, I might show you this. He created this 3 years before he passed away. It reads, "Hope and optimism in spite of present difficulties." And to that I add that yes, in spite of present difficulties, we can do through hope, and we can do through optimism, and we can do through art, because it really does make a difference. Thank you very much.